Good morning. Good morning. If I can call the meeting to order, please. Doug, do we have public speakers this morning?
Yes, sir, we do. We have 6 public speakers. Our first speaker is Pat Bowden, President TWU 252. Then Bill Henderson from PCAC and Matthew Shotkin.
Hello, everybody. Morning. This is a sad day for Long Island. I didn't think it would come to this, but it's clear Nassau County Executive Ed Magano and MTA have put politics and power ahead of the people. We have a roadmap to keep Long Island bus solvent and thriving. It requires that both the MTA and Nassau County finally meet the obligations of the 102,000 people, everyday riders who depend on this bus service. Get to work, home, school. The working families and the small business of Nassau County deserve better from the MTA and Nassau County. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bill Henderson, PCAC, followed by Matthew Shotkin.
Good morning, Bill Henderson from PCAC. As I'm sure that you may also be, we're extremely wary about the 2011 budget that's proposed for adoption today. With $13.5 billion in expenses and a projected closing cash balance of $8 billion, this goes beyond tight. Add to this that many difficult choices have already been made, and some initiatives in the budget are going to be very difficult to implement, such as the net zero labor cost, and there's not a high comfort level with this budget among the riders. The budget makes clear what we can and can't afford, but I'll submit there's one additional thing we can't afford, and that's more service cuts. We've already been down that road, and riders are still saddled with the effect of cuts that were made earlier this year that generated less than $100 million in savings. We at the PCAC and the councils are regularly reminded of the impact of these cuts when we work with riders who are crowded and inconvenienced as a result of the service that's been reduced. Simply put, further reductions in service will significantly harm the region and the people in it. We'd like to be optimists. We want to believe that the budget will be workable. For the budget to work, however, it must be crystal clear to our state and local elected officials that they must keep the funding commitments that have been made to the MTA and its operating agencies. We'll be there to deliver this message, and we expect this board and MTA management to forcefully make this point as well. There's no margin for error here. You know that, and we know that. Let's make sure our state and local officials recognize this as well. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Henderson. Next speaker, Matthew Shotkin, and Diane Rivera, Kate Slevin, and then our last speaker, Marty Goodman.
Good morning, Andrew and Mr. Chairman. Your ties are very nice. Nancy, your dress is very nice. Good morning. It's amazing how, according to pages Roman numeral 273 and 285, New York City Transit makes 2 million so more than MTA bus. Furthermore, according to Roman numeral I-1, MTA bridges and tunnels stay balanced. This is due to the overflow of cars. Thanks very much.
Thank you. Next speaker, Diane Rivera, then Kate Slevin.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Diane Rivera, and I am speaking on behalf of over 600 soon-to-be stranded Park and Ride Atlantic Express Staten Island commuters. Our time is running out. We have 2 weeks. As you are aware, Atlantic Express has elected to discontinue servicing the south and west shores of Staten Island through the AE7 route. When Atlantic Express AE7 suspends their service starting January 1st, 2011, the commuters in the South and West Shore will have to find an alternate means of transportation. When the Travis commuters began their crusade for bus service, we focused on getting the X22, X23, and X24 to make a quick on and off stop at Victory Boulevard and Glen Street, off of Route 440. We soon learned that the curtailment of this service also affects many people in the South Shore. Since receiving the letter from Atlantic Express at the end of October 2010, we have not sat back to see what may happen. We took a proactive stance and accomplished, here's some of the items. On October 26th, we contacted the MTA, and MTA instructed us to go to the Community Board. On November 8th, we attended Community Board meeting and they recommended that they would speak to the MTA. November 13th, commuters sent letters to the Staten Island Advance and to the Honorable James Otto and the Honorable Vincent Ignizio. I've also contacted Alan Capelli's office. These are just some of the items that I have accomplished. I do have copies of the letter from Mr. Ignizio, and I also have a synopsis of what has been done. If anyone is interested, I could leave copies. I will also, in order to ease the burden on the commuters who have long relied on this service to get to work, we are asking your help in one of the following ways. Take over the route as it was operated by Atlantic Express, develop and implement a similar route that handles the same geographic areas, or assist a new public company in assuming the route. We already have a company that's interested.
Please summarize your comments if you
Okay, if none of these options are possible, we would like to hear your thoughts on what the MTA can do to assist the stranded commuters of this corner of the city. We look forward to your response. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Kate Slevin, Tri-State Campaign. And then our last speaker, Marty Goodman.
Good morning. My name is Kate Slevin. I'm the Executive Director of the Tri-State Transportation Campaign. The following statement is supported by Tri-State Transportation Campaign, Long Island Progressive Coalition, New York Public Interest Research Group, Vision Long Island, New York Communities for Change, and Long Island Federation of Labor. Today, the MTA Board is voting on its proposal to cut the agency's $26 million contribution to Long Island Bus. Our groups urge you to vote against this measure. We remain extremely concerned with the impacts of this cut to the 33 million annual Long Island bus riders who rely on the system. Our groups urge both the MTA and Nassau County Executive, Ed Mangano, to come to a conciliatory agreement that would spare bus riders from the demise of their transportation lifeline. The solution to this transit crisis is twofold. First, the MTA should withdraw its proposal to slash its contribution in full and instead phase in the reduction over a number of years. Second, Nassau County must increase its contribution towards Long Island Bus beyond its bargain basement deal of $9.1 million. Other suburban counties like Westchester and Suffolk have found ways to fund their system to the tune of $25 to $30 million a year, even without MTA's support, despite having their own budget deficits. Both parties must take responsibility over Long Island Bus's future. A reliable, frequent, and affordable bus system connects Long Island residents with jobs and health services. It reduces congestion on the traffic-choked island. It delivers environmental benefits by reducing the demand for car ownership. And it provides travel options for seniors and students who may not have the ability to drive. And it supports a strong Long Island economy and a diverse population. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Our last speaker today, Marty Goodman, TWU.
Hello, my name is Marty Goodman. I'm a station agent. A little tired from work last night, but here it goes. Over the last year, we've suffered hundreds of layoffs, 460 in our department alone as station agents. Those are people that are mainly minority workers, low seniority workers that are now thrown into the unemployment lines. In the black community, I was just reading a thing where black youth have got astronomically high unemployment rates. That's primarily who you're laying off. Mothers, many mothers, single and family mothers who were laid off on Mother's Day weekend, I must add. Incredible, incredible. One thing I wanted to mention that I noticed this morning in reading some reports on the MTA is the bond issue that's coming up. $750 million taxable Build America bonds. One of the handlers of that is going to be Goldman Sachs, who you guys, in a moment of soberness, decided to withdraw as one of your handlers after all the scandal with Goldman Sachs and that bunch of crooks. Not that the rest of them aren't crooks also, but it's totally amazing that you're going back to Goldman while our people are being laid off. There is an agreement for many of these workers to come back over the course of the next year. I'd like to know what is going to feed the families over the course of the next year for most of these workers. Not all of them are scheduled to come back for at least a year. Now, I just want to say about the bond debt. Half of it is to the banks and the bondholders, the MTA bonds. And here it is that the taxpayer, the worker, basically, is subsidizing these bonds by 35%, and the bond owners are getting high revenue from it. And it's no wonder that they're seeking out these bonds in a lousy market.
Conclude your comments, Mr.
In a lousy market, no wonder they're fleeing toward these bonds. And it's another giveaway to the rich while our people are on the unemployment lines. You should be ashamed of yourselves.
Please conclude. Thank you very much. That concludes today's public speaking session.
Doug, thank you very much, and thank you to our public speakers. If I may ask for a vote to approve the minutes of the November board meeting. In favor? Opposed? Thank you. Before we begin to the agenda, I want to just take, if I can, a moment to do two pieces of business, one of coming and one of going. I'd like to welcome, if I can, to the board Chuck Merdler. Today is his first board meeting. I think he was able to attend the committee meetings on Monday. I know that the MTA will benefit tremendously from his knowledge and expertise. We look forward to working with you, and we welcome you to the board of directors. Chuck replaces Norman Seabrook, and I think everyone here will join me in thanking Norman for his service on the board. We have a traditional way of showing our thanks that will be arranged for a future meeting, but I did want to recognize Norman's service as well. But I think in terms of people leaving the MTA, I'd also like to take a moment, if I can, to recognize Chris Boylan. Chris is retiring, he tells me, at the end of this month. And he has been with the MTA for 21 years. I know this because I was here when he joined. We've been doing some counting recently, and we have figured out that Chris has worked for 6 chairmen. He's had at least 5 different titles. And despite a large investment in computers, we've been unable to count the number of titles that he's actually held at the MTA. It includes federal, state, and local relations, media relations, corporate communications, arts for transit, the Transit Museum, and I know I'm leaving out a whole bunch of other things as well. I think the short version, frankly, is that Chris has been a go-to guy. He's been a go-to guy for any of the 6 chairmen who have been here. He's been a go-to guy for the board of directors. He's been a go-to guy for the staff of the MTA. And I think as we wish him the best as he moves on to the next stage in his career. But before we let him go out the door, I hope you'll join me in giving him a round of applause. Chris, again, we thank you for 21 years of service to the MTA. You embody, I think, some of the great things of this company. Thank you very much. Moving into our agenda, at this time I'd like to ask Bob Foran to come up and to introduce the MTA's 2011 budget adoption materials. Oh, you're there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I'm going to be speaking from the staff summary included in the 2011 budget adoption material, which you received and have had a chance to review in committees. This document summarizes the plan that we presented to the board in November, which was an update of our July financial plan, and it really reaffirms the MTA's commitment to make every dollar count and also to bring stability to the MTA's finances. As you recall, In the July plan and in November, we talked about $525 million of savings, annual recurring savings that came from the cuts that you had put in place this year. And also the kind of down payment in terms of an additional roughly $475 million worth of expense reductions that will be achieved by the time we get to 2014. So $1 billion of expense reductions in place. Even with that $1 billion of expense reductions that we're putting in place, the MTA's finances remain precarious. The bottom line is that the November plan shows 2010 and 2011 cash balances that are razor thin in terms of their balances, $8 million in 2010 and $3 million in 2011. Primarily, those reduced cash balances and out-year deficits that have increased since the July plan are a result of increased estimates in our pension cost. We're now estimating that our pension costs are going to be about $470 million higher than we originally planned due to change in actuarial assumptions. That dramatically reduces the cash balances and increases the cash deficits that we project. If you look on page Roman I-3 in the staff summary, I'd like to present to you what is our recommendation for the board to adopt in terms of the budget. First, it's recommended that the board adopt the 2011 final proposed consolidated and agency budgets and the November financial plan for 2011 through 2014. This includes approving both the 2010 forecast, the general reserve, and the below-line adjustments. We ask that you authorize staff under the direction of the chair and the CEO to take actions to implement both subsidy and other technical adjustments that are included in the plan. Authorize technical adjustments to the agency budgets and forecast of non-material nature that will go in February. We ask that you authorize adjustments to agency 2011 budgets relating to labor settlements that would be subsequently approved by the board. We also ask that you authorize staff under the direction of the chair and CEO to take actions in furtherance of the ending of the subsidization to the Long Island bus deficit as set forth in our November plan. These actions, at the discretion of the MTA and Long Island bus chair and CEO, may include, without limitations, continuing negotiations with Nassau County to try to come up with a new agreement that would provide a secure and sufficient cash flow to maintain the existing bus operations, facilitating Nassau County's efforts to assume responsibility for the existing bus operations, including the proposed privatization of Long Island bus service, giving notice of termination of the existing lease and operating agreement between Long Island County or Nassau County and Long Island Bus, and scheduling and conducting public hearings relating to a reduction or termination of Long Island bus service provided on the existing lease and operating agreement. I'd like to just stop here and make a couple of points. First, like with the fare and toll hearings that have taken place this year, any action that the board subsequently takes would be after the fare and those hearings. So what we're asking now is to give the chair and CEO authorization to continue to move forward, but any ultimate actions would still come back to the board. And secondly, while this budget includes no monies to subsidize the Long Island bus deficit, we are going to continue to try to keep the service going and operate that service. With the county's cooperation, if the county will continue to provide the funds that are included in its current budget, we're working with senior management of the Long Island Bus Company to see what we can do to further reduce costs, temporarily defer costs, do what we need to do to try to keep the service running as long as we can. This is temporary, and I have to say it might not be a pretty picture. There will be a degradation of service if we're doing this to a level, but we're going to try to keep the service going long enough to try to reach some type of arrangement or agreement with the county. Finally, we'd like to ask the board to approve the additional budget and cash management actions as included in this financial plan. And those include, 1, advancing the bridge and tunnel operating surplus, 2, using the MTA MRT2 corporate account monies, which, as you know, are discretionary and provide us flexibility. Use the regional mobility tax and other new taxes. Provide for interagency loans for the benefit of the organization and to help our cash flow needs. Use the stabilization reserve that works between the commuter accounts and the transit accounts to, again, help with cash flow needs. And finally, the continuation of the GASB 45, that's the OPEB contribution that's made of $47 million in 2011, and allow for borrowing of that money as necessary. So, Mr. Chairman, those are the recommendations for board action.
Thank you very much. At this time, I'd like to ask for a motion to adopt the 2011 final proposed consolidated agency budgets and the November financial plans for 2011 to 2014.
I move it. Second.
Discussion.
I just have a question, and maybe it's best addressed to Darrell, but should Nassau County not be forthcoming with a higher proportion of the cost of the running of Long Island Bus, in your estimation, how long does the operation continue before it must shut down?
I would say probably into the first quarter, the end of the first quarter, and we would incur a great deal of degradation to service.
And I heard Mr. Foran refer to the degradation of service. What does that mean exactly?
Well, firstly, if we have an availability problem where a bus operator or mechanic doesn't come to work, our ability to replace them would be significantly limited. So in where the rubber meets the road, we would be missing a run on the street or a trip on the street.
Thank you.
Pat, you want to speak?
Yeah, thank you, Jay. I am vehemently against this reduction in funding for Long Island Bus. The action proposed today puts 30 million riders annually, most of whom are lower-income people going to and from their jobs. The economic and social impact on Nassau County and the region would be substantial, dramatic, and adverse from both an economic and a social point of view. I've been advised by lawyers far smarter than I with respect to a number of matters. First, we've been advised that this is a non-delegable matter that can only be dealt with by the board and not by any member of senior management. Second, I'm glad to hear Bob note that there would be a requirement for public hearings. We think that is required by the law, and we think that those hearings should be held in both Nassau, Suffolk, and Queens County because riders in Nassau, Suffolk, and Queens use Long Island Bus to and from work. Three, I think this poses an ominous message for my fellow quarter-pounders or our quarter-pounder colleagues on the board, because this type of action to defund a MTA operation in whole or in part, it seems to me is a way to escape the accountability built into state transportation law and is an ominous precedent for the counties represented by the quarter-pounders. I note a couple of factual things. One, as Bob noted, the 60-day notice has not been provided. Two, we continue to be in discussions with the MTA, and I, on behalf of Nassau County, and Nassau County Executive Ed Mangano, made a revised, comprehensive, reasonable, and frankly, I'd be surprised were it not accepted, proposal to the MTA with respect to multi-year funding for Long Island Bus at significantly higher levels in 12, 13, 14, and beyond. And the last factual thing I want to note is that the county legislature has approved, Bob mentioned Nassau County's continuation of funding, has approved funding in 2011 at the $9.5 million. So that money will be provided. It will be provided as required in the contract and has been approved by both the county and the county legislature. Two last points. One is the degradation of service that Bob and Darrell mentioned is obviously very distressing to us, especially because Long Island Bus now operates following significant cutbacks in service both for fixed service and for paratransit. So degradation of service, which frankly I regard as a cynical threat, is something that troubles us. The last thing I note, and this may be an odd coincidence, is that the $26 million in funding is also precisely the amount of deficit that would trigger perhaps a NIFA takeover, NIFA being the state agency that has been in place, created by the state legislature 10 or so years ago. and the county just doesn't have the money. Having said that, we're going to continue funding at 9.5 and have made what I believe is a comprehensive and fair proposal for increased funding on a multi-year basis. Thank you, Jay.
Further discussion?
I'd like to take that up as a representative in Westchester, where we run the Beeline service without the benefit of the MTA. It seems to me to ask the other counties, in order to support what goes on in Nassau, instead of Nassau assuming its own obligations, is asking us to do something which doesn't seem to me to be too proper. We managed in Westchester to run the Beeline system with the help of the members of Westchester County, and we believe that's the same thing that Nassau should be doing.
Mark?
I think that to say that this is a defunding of service by the MTA has the statement backwards. The problem here is that Nassau County is not paying its share of providing this bus service. And to put us in the position of being responsible for the inability of Nassau, with among the strongest tax bases in the region, to handle its own finances makes no sense. If, in fact, Nassau should be taken over by its Financial Control Board because it's unable to meet its obligations in a balanced and sustainable way, it should be taken over by its Control Board. We're not in the business of bailing out the political units in our jurisdiction. We're in the business of trying to provide transportation well, efficiently, on an economical basis, and we have to pay for it. Nassau County basically needs to do the same thing. They have to pay for it.
Andrew?
I think that Mark and Don Cecil summed this up very well. And speaking on behalf of Westchester, County Executive Astorino is under significant pressure now to close a very large Westchester County deficit. And as Don said, Westchester has met its obligations. It runs the Beeline bus at the cost of over $26 million, which is paid for by the taxpayers in Westchester. And I think that the Beeline service and the Nassau bus is very, very similar operation. And in fact, Pat, and what you're asking here is for the citizens of Westchester to actually pay money to keep the Nassau bus system going, which I don't think is fair at all. And I agree with Mark. I think that Nassau really has to come to the table here, and it certainly shouldn't put the other counties at disadvantage. But having said all this, I feel that the real answer here is the regional bus study, which I know is getting started here in January under the chairman's guidance. And I hope that when it gives its review in September, will provide a good map of how to really straighten out all these suburban bus lines, because the answer is that there needs to be a regional bus system here. And I hope that Nassau and Suffolk, and I know Westchester will be behind it, really takes a look at this survey, and at that time we need to come up with a long-term solution to this problem. But in the meantime, it certainly is Nassau's obligation, as it is Suffolk's and Westchester's and Dutchess and everybody else, to fund their operation.
Alan?
Yes. First of all, let me just say that the people I'm most sympathetic towards in this whole thing are the riders from Nassau County who on Long Island Bus, who are probably the most underserved and desperate riders in our system. And so certainly my heart goes out to them, and which I hope it doesn't come to pass, that we actually have to move in this direction and have hearings towards eliminating this. I will be at those hearings because I want to make sure that what is said is taken as seriously as possible by this board. That having been said, we've been through a series of painful moves over the past year to try to operate a system region-wide. We've made cuts that have pained everyone here in that name, and it would be irresponsible of us not to insist that Nassau County pay its share in terms of providing the services. People in other parts of the region should not have to have their bus or train service curtailed in order to subsidize Nassau County. As has been said, Nassau has a very strong tax base. It makes policy choices in doing the budget. That is the prerogative of the county executive, and I understand that he's got a very difficult situation to deal with, but they are his policy objectives, and it is not while we may be sympathetic to the riders in Nassau County, it is not our responsibility to put the money in when the county chooses not to do that. So I will support this resolution, and I will be at the hearings if it comes to that, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Jim?
I can tell you that the bus systems within the Quarter Pounders territory are the responsibility of the four governing bodies. They've taken responsibility for it. They haven't asked for any subsidies, and I can tell you that it has created, some concern, at least in my county. I've sat on this board for over 16 years, and my county executive has really trusted me to make the right decisions that he thinks are necessary for Dutchess County. This is the one issue that he made sure that he called me on to find out really what was going on and what the feeling was of the board members. And his concern was, all of us here at this table represent counties in one way or another. And we all take upon ourselves our own responsibilities. And that certainly the responsibilities that are in Nassau are not the responsibilities of the rest of our group. And certainly the concern that he showed was the one that I had. And now the fact that reasonable bus, which has really been a discussion thing that's been on, I know, Mitch's mind for a long time, has really come to a point where we're going to start the process rolling, because we all have our bus systems. We all have subsidies that the county government, give to our regional bus, to our individual bus systems. So maybe at some point down the road there will be a solution, but not now. Now we have a problem that has to be taken care of, and I think it's only fair to the rest of our communities that we take this action. Thank you.
Thank you.
Another question, if I might. Was or is Long Island Bus scheduled to get a fare increase on December 30th like the other parts of the system?
Yes.
Thank you.
And that's been accounted for in the financial projections that you have in front of you today. Correct? Oh, Mark, I'm sorry.
Okay, I just wanted to add to my statement that I agree very strongly with Alan that, in fact, the problem here is that as an agency we do our best to serve the public whom we serve, and that clearly has included the people of Nassau County who depend on this bus service. And I think that the degree to which we take that seriously is demonstrated by the efforts that we are still in to maintain the service as long as possible, in the hopes that we can in fact arrive at an understanding with Nassau County which will work for these bus riders and respect the need for an equitable burden in terms of how our service is funded.
Thank you. Doreen, you wanted to speak?
Go ahead, let her go.
Oh, Mitch, did you have anything on Nassau? Really?
I have a couple things. Go ahead.
Okay, my only issue with the budget is the line item for the repayment of the capital loan from the operating budget. I know there are inter-fund borrowings or inter-balance sheet borrowings that occur, and this one continues to trouble me. I think the whole subject of what we're financing, how we're financing it, needs to be discussed in some detail in the new year.
Thank you. Mitch, I'm sorry.
That's okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have a couple of things on the budget, and then I'll get into the Long Island bus issue. First of all,
I make no commitment, although I know that obviously it is in there with regard to the 2013 proposed fare increase. While it is in the four-year financial plan, it's 2 years away, for lack of a better term, and I don't think this board should automatically assume, or anybody else automatically assume, that that is what is going to happen in 2013. Our hope is that circumstances may change, either internally or externally, to allow us to alleviate or reduce or eliminate, or whatever other terminology we can use, before the 2013 date. So I don't want anyone to, at least from my perspective, assume that we have made, or I have made, and I won't speak for anyone else, a commitment that the 2013 fare increase is an automatic. I'm hopeful that that will not happen. As part of that, we are going through a variety of other aspects of the budget. The finance chair has made it clear that we will get a complete analysis of MTA real estate, which is obviously a very important component of this. It's been an issue which has been out there for many years as to what MTA owns or doesn't own and what they could do or not do with it. And I thank the chairman of the Finance Committee for bringing that forward as soon as possible, because I think that hopefully will allow us to look comprehensively at what we can do and what we can't do with regard to the real estate issues, which are an integral part of this. The third aspect of that is obviously the consolidation issues. The opening of the Business Service Center in January leads to a variety of consolidations, which I think are very, very important. They relate to a number of activities which the controller has earmarked in his audits over the years as places in which hopefully MTA could save money, either through reduced personnel or a variety of service aspects, and I'm hopeful that that will lead to those also. I know we have numbers in the budget, and we'll have to see. Hopefully we can reach those, and maybe the Business Service Center will be more in that regard. I do also want to thank the chair and the staff for moving forward on regional bus. It has been an integral part of my time here at MTA. I hope that it will finally allow the suburban counties to make an MTA to make a determination as to whether or not there should be regional bus and how it should be done by facts and figures and not by perception. We've never really had the numbers to be able to analyze it in the right way, whether it's Nassau, Suffolk, Westchester, or the other four counties in that context. I think that's a very important aspect of that. With regard to Long Island Bus itself, it's really a very, I don't know what to say. It's really a very sad day. For some time before Pat came, we did not have a Nassau County representative on the board, and that fell to me to make sure that Long Island Bus was protected. Joe Smith, who preceded Darrell, and Helena, who participated in those discussions, got tired, I think, of my hitting everybody over the head about how important Long Island Bus is and was to the regional community of Long Island. I can only say that I do not believe today is the end of the discussion. The language which is in the staff summary allows the chair to continue negotiations with MTA. And that is very, very important to me, that language being in there. Because regardless of our vote today, one way or the other, and it's clear the resolution is going to pass, the sanctity of Long Island Bus and its effect on the communities on Long Island is very important. The chairman has indicated to me in no uncertain terms over the past couple of months, and in his continuation as we go forward, his commitment to try to reach an amicable solution with Nassau County. A solution that I'm hopeful that Nassau County could live with, and also the rest of the suburban counties could live with over some period of time. That's very important. I'm hopeful we can still reach a rational decision-making process on that, because, and I'm glad to hear
that the service will be able to continue for some period of time until a final determination has to be made in that regard. Because it's important to Suffolk County, it's clearly important to Nassau County in that regard. However, today's vote is an integral part of a consolidated budget and doesn't, I don't believe, allow us to move money from one place to another, because if we wanted to move money, we'd have to find some place to take it from, and the likelihood of doing that without negatively impacting wherever we took it from is going to be very difficult in that regard. So I am hopeful that while today's vote is a step in a process, it is not the final step in that process. It is just another avenue in which hopefully all parties can come together or reach a solution that allows, if Nassau County cannot do it in one fell swoop, which I understand probably more than anybody here except for Pat, that they can do it in a phased-in approach over a period of time, a phase-in that will allow Nassau County to assume more of its responsibility and yet do it in a way that does not negatively impact its finances nor negatively impact the people who ride the bus, which are a very important aspect of that. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Pat?
Jay, I'm going to be brief. 4 points. One is, I'm not going to negotiate in public or at this table, but I think it's important to say to the board and to the public that the county recognizes that the responsibility for funding Long Island Bus is the county's. And indeed, in each proposal I've made, including the one I made earlier this week, the county is willing in writing to recognize that obligation. That's important. 2, I think it's important to note the following, that this situation has been 10 years in the making. All of you, with the exception of Charles, have served on this board far longer than I. I guess I've been on it approximately 16 weeks. This crisis and this situation has been 10 years in the making as a result of Nassau County's first crisis about 10 or 11 years ago. Which leads me to point 3, which is that in the current environment, and realizing that the fiscal pressures that all counties are under, but especially Nassau County, as reported in the press, the popular press and the business press over the last several weeks, it is not reasonable to expect this situation to be resolved in one fell swoop, to use Mitch's phrase, or to be resolved immediately. Which is why, 4, I have proposed a multi-year proposal which provides for a dramatic and significant increase in the amount of county funding and a dramatic and immediate decrease in the amount of MTA funding. And I'll leave it at that. Thank you, Jay.
Chuck?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to associate myself with Mr. Palley's comments. Sounds to me like this is just part of a process, and I have every faith that the Chair will continue that process moving forward. I've heard reference to and legitimate reference to the needs and concerns of the people in Nassau County. I would simply add there have been enough layoffs for TWU workers, and I am concerned about making sure that those are minimized to the maximum extent possible. I thank you. I will vote for the resolution.
Further discussion? Okay. If I can summarize a couple of points, I think I would agree with the speakers. I think Bill Henderson commented earlier that this is a very tight budget. It is an extremely tight budget for the MTA. We're running an incredibly complex, multi-billion-dollar company with essentially no margin right now. Nevertheless, I think it does reflect an extreme commitment on the part of the MTA, on the part of all of you, to overhaul the way that we deliver our services. We are now talking about a budget with $1 billion of annual savings at the MTA, year in and year out savings. I think this is incredibly important in the steps that we have taken. I wish I could tell you that provided real financial stability. I'm afraid I can't quite say that in where we are right now. But I think the commitment to budget savings that this board is demonstrating by adoption of this budget should not in any way be overlooked. The commitment that we have made throughout this year should not be overlooked in any way. And to pick up on a point that Mitch made, the structural changes that, in fact, the board put in place and started before I arrived, things like the Business Service Center that are now coming to fruition right now, and I know that many of you were champions of that over a long period of time, should not be missed either. Things are happening. They are real in the way that we are doing it. We will continue to do actions in that way. We'll continue to look for savings. We'll continue to look for consolidations. And I can only hope that we will exceed, if possible, while continuing to provide the first quality services, the level of savings that we have estimated here. I think there is a point that was made about fares, and again, in adopting this budget, you are not committing yourself to a fare increase. Clearly, as a matter of law, we would have to go through a public hearing process before anyone does that. What you are recognizing in doing this, I think, is twofold. One, that the agreement reached with the governor and the legislature in 2009 contemplated periodic and regular fare increases for the MTA, and it is appropriate to include that as part of our business plan. So I agree with the points that there are opportunities to be able to consider that as we go forward, and indeed we will do that. And then finally, I think on the point of Long Island Bus, which is the point of a large part of discussion, I will say for myself and for the company that I do not think in any way the actions that we're taking closes off discussion. We have kept a discussion and a dialogue going. And I hope that we will be able to reach, as somebody put it, an amicable settlement of the issues going forward. I do recognize, as I think everyone on the board recognizes, is the critical importance of bus service in Nassau County. No one is questioning that in any way. But again, I think as the points have already been articulated about the responsibilities of the MTA, the responsibilities of the county, Pat has commented on that as well, and everybody understands that. I hope we find a path forward to do that. I will continue those discussions even as we move forward on other steps, and as Pat has noted in his comments, steps that are required by law if we need to take further action that is here. With that, I will conclude discussion on this. We have a motion. We have a second. In favor? Opposed? Thank you. We now move to the report from the Committee on Finance. Andrew, please.
There are three action items. The first action item is for approval to qualify firms for underwriting assignments on MTA, including affiliate and subsidiary bond and note issues in connection with the MTA finance portion of approved capital programs, as well as for financing a special project outside of approved capital programs, including 1. Pools of bond underwriters to serve as senior managers, co-managers, and variable rate dealers and remarketing agents, and 2. A pool of firms to serve as swap counterparties for derivative transactions. The second item is for authorization to enter fuel hedges. The third item is not in the board book, having been distributed to the members of the Finance Committee at its Monday meeting. It seeks authorization to issue transportation revenue bonds, Series 2010E. The committee recommends these items, and I move them.
In favor?
Aye.
The underwriters, is that item number one? Okay. Thank you. In favor? Did you want to speak? I'm sorry.
Just a question. As I understand it, with respect to the BABs, no decision's been made to proceed. I just note that there's an article in the Journal today, and much talk in the market, about how muni bonds are at an 18-month high, the spread between munis and treasuries, and I realize these are taxable BABs, but no decision's been made, and staff will make a decision at the time, pull the trigger or not. Is that right?
This is just giving them, Pat, it's just giving them the option to be able to do it. That's correct.
Andrew, thank you.
And that's the way it was presented at the Finance Committee.
Thank you.
I have a motion. I have a second. In favor?
Aye.
Opposed? If I can, thank you. If I can just interject one point here before you go on, Andrew. I think one of the things that we set out as a goal as we had the selection of underwriters was, frankly, to have an unprecedented level of minority and women-owned business participation in our underwriting syndicate. I wouldn't want this point to go by here today without recognizing that I believe that we have achieved that. that we have 2 firms in our senior manager pool as minority and women-owned businesses. We have 4 firms in our co-manager pool. We have 2 variable rate remarketing agents and dealers, and we have 4 swap counterparties who are there. I think this is really an effort that really moves the MTA forward to the top tier, best practice in this regard. I wanted to offer my thanks to everyone who has been involved in the selection of underwriters in doing that. I know it's a commitment this board has in that way, and I'm very pleased to see that we've been able to take an action that achieves it. Thank you very much. Andrew?
There are no non-competitive procurements. There are 4 competitive procurements in the amount of $3.49 million. I move these procurements.
In favor? Opposed? Thank you.
There are 2 ratifications in the amount of $159,775, and I move these procurements.
Do I have a second? In favor? Opposed? Thank you.
There are 7 real estate action items this month, which are described in the board materials, and I move these action items.
In favor? Opposed? Thank you.
This concludes our report.
Thank you very much. We move to the report from the Transit Committee. Doreen, please.
Transit presents the following for the board's approval: 19 procurements totaling $48.1 million, of which 4 are non-competitive for $9.7 million. The committee recommends them, and I move them.
In favor? Opposed? Thank you.
10 are competitive in the amount of $16.1 million. The committee recommends these, and I move them.
In favor? Opposed? Thank you.
There are 5 ratifications this month in the amount of $22.3 million. These are recommended, and I move them.
In favor? Opposed?
Finally, there's 1 action item to approve the use of an expedited change order procedure for the R-188 train procurement. These trains will replace some of the oldest trains in our fleet. The committee recommends this action, and I move it.
In favor? Opposed? Thank you.
That concludes transit.
Well, thank you very much. And we will move on then to bus operations. Nancy, please.
Yes, good morning. There were 3 non-competitive procurements totaling...
You want to put on your microphone, Nancy?
Oh, pardon me. Again, good morning. There are 3 non-competitive procurements in the amount of $65.14 million. The committee recommended these, and I move them.
Do I have a second? Discussion?
Just a very quick comment. I just wanted to point out how happy I am to see the CTG contract for the paratransit. We've been pushing for some time to expand the yellow taxis and the livery cars to help drive down the cost of paratransit. Particularly, my understanding is more competition and we can get more people involved in this. I think that would be helpful. And, the one person I forgot to mention at committee who I know worked on this very hard, besides Joe Smith, was Charlie Monheim. So I just want to thank him on that.
Thank you. And I think that the reality is that we are showing, and I'm very appreciative of showing, much more innovation in the ways that we're able to meet the mobility needs of the disabled community, and I think that that's very important for us to be able to do as a company, as a board. Nancy?
Yeah, I agree. There was... Did we
we need to vote. I'm sorry. So we have a motion. I have a second. In favor? Aye. Opposed? Thank you.
And there is 1 ratification in the amount of $17,612. Again, the committee recommended this 1 ratification. I move it.
In favor? Aye. Opposed? Thank you.
That concludes it for this year. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We move to the report from the Metro North and Long Island committees, and my supercomputer tells me it's your turn.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman. The combined on-time performance for our railroad this month was 95.45%. There is 1 action item. The action item is for approval of the addition of a project titled Additional Elevator for Each Side Access Concourse, and the $2.24 million in federal funding for this project to be to the regional investment portion of the MTA 2010-2014 capital program. The company recommended this item, and I move it.
Second. In favor? Aye. Opposed?
There are 3 non-competitive procurements, 1 for Long Island Railroad and 2 for Metro-North Railroad in a total amount of $36.9 million. The committee recommended these procurements, and I move them.
Have a second?
Second.
In favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
There are 9 competitive procurements, 3 for the Long Island Railroad, 2 for Metro-North, and 4 for the MTA Capital Construction Company in the amount of $75.4 million. The committee recommends these procurements, and I move them.
Have a second?
Second.
In favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
There is one ratification this month for Metro-North in the amount of $107,808. The committee recommends this ratification, and I move it.
In favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
This concludes the Metro-North Long Island Committee reports.
Excuse me?
Railroad report?
Sure.
Yeah. There was a discussion at the board at the committee meeting on Monday, which I thought was quite important, about a customer survey, which I applaud. There was one thing that frankly bothered me, and I just wanted to raise it, which is the survey was terrific. I think customers are, I'm focusing now on the railroad, customers are generally satisfied. They've got some concerns. There was one thing that was anomalous to me, which is 88% of them are somehow satisfied with Penn Station. That surprises me. But there's one thing that bothers me, which is apparently there was a survey done of customer value perception, which business people around the table was a fundamental thing that would be done. It was not included in the report given to the board, and the numbers were surprisingly low. The number for peak Long Island Railroad riders was 60% satisfaction. Overall for Long Island Railroad was 67. I would have preferred that it had been raised on Monday and included in the report. It frankly bothers me that it wasn't, and I just wanted to raise it. Obviously, I'm aware that those numbers to some extent may be flavored by the recent fare increases and people's reaction to it. There's another fare, and for the record, I voted against the fare increase. There's another fare increase this board is going to have to consider in 2013. We'll make that decision when we have to. But it just seems to me that not sharing that information, which was dramatically lower than everything else on the schedule, including the conditions of the ladies' and men's rooms, was inappropriate.
Alan?
Actually, jumping in on the customer survey, I had wanted to at the end of the public session, as I had mentioned to you earlier, I attended a project called Generation Citizen between Wagner College and Port Richmond High School, which their focus has been public transportation. And the students from Port Richmond, with Wagner College students' help, conducted a survey of their satisfaction with our services. I would just like to present this to you afterwards on their behalf. There's some interesting comments that these future strap hangers for Gene Rushinoff will have for us going forward. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm actually very pleased that we undertook the customer surveys. I know a lot of work has gone into it, and I'm actually also very pleased that we had what the intent was to have a full and open discussion at the committee meetings this time around, with a significant amount of reporting in the press. If we have in any way failed to capture some of what was there, we should look back on that for the future. One of the benefits we have in doing this is it will be an annual process. It gives us the ability to look at this over time. But the clear goal of doing this, like other things I hope people will see at the MTA, is both a desire to be able to hear and listen to what our customers are saying, but also to have an open and transparent discussion in public so that people can see it and can see that we're considering the materials that are there. And that remains our commitment with all of the things that we're doing at this board. If I could turn to the report from the Bridges and Tunnels.
Mr. Chairman, MTA Bridges and Tunnels Committee, sometimes known as the Triborough Bridge and Tunnel Authority and occasionally called the RFK Bridge and Tunnel Authority. We don't have an identity crisis. We know who we are. And we're pleased to announce that we are budgeted to contribute $800 million annually to the rest of the MTA mass transportation efforts. We met on Monday. We have no non-competitive procurements. There are 7 competitive procurements in the amount of $14.55 million. The committee recommends these procurements, and I move them.
Second. In favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
There are no ratification, and that concludes the report.
The introduction is slightly longer than the report itself.
as only Mark can do. I just wanted to I wanted to acknowledge the enactment by the state legislature of a legislative resolution authorizing MTA to rename the Brooklyn Battery Tunnel on behalf of Governor Carey, which is of great interest to many of us who worked with Governor Carey back in those years. But the other part of it, which is the part I raised at the Bridges and Tunnels meeting, is that for some reason there is the perception that the last time the legislature did this, which was the issue of renaming the Triborough Bridge for Senator Kennedy, that in somehow it cost MTA $4 million to change the signs. At the committee meeting, I asked the president of the TBTA how much it actually did cost us, and it was $32,000. So one would assume if it cost us $32,000 to change the signs for the RFK Bridge, because of the number of approaches, it will probably be less than that to change it for the Brooklyn Battery Tunnel, and I think that is a very worthy expense to honor Governor Carey.
We've actually budgeted $25,000 for the sign changes.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. We have need for an executive session. Before I call for a motion for that, I would like to express the board's wishes for a happy holiday and a happy new year for everybody. At this time, I'd like to make a motion to go into executive session pursuant to Section 105 of the Public Offices Law to discuss collective negotiations. May I have a second?
Second.
In favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you.
Drew Scott from News 12 Long Island. A lot of people view this as playing hardball with Nassau County with bus riders. How would you portray this?
I think that this is recognizing that the county has an obligation to fund the bus service in Nassau County in the same way that every other suburban county has an obligation to fund the bus services. I think the MTA has consistently sought to work with the county to be able to do that, has set out opportunities to be able to work together, and I hope that we'll still find a way to be able to go through this. But what I cannot do and what the board cannot do is be in a position in which we are continuing to fund a bus service that is the obligation of the county without any end in sight.
If I could follow up, are you in touch with Mr. Mangano?
I wrote to Mr. Mangano earlier this month. Our representatives have been speaking, and I expect the discussions will continue.
Where do you stand with the state money that was due to come to you by the end of the year?
I believe all the money is being processed to be able to come to us. I have no indication to the contrary.
So there's no worry about funding being pulled back or delayed?
There's no indication of that.
The governor-elect hasn't said anything yet about MTA. Are you alarmed by that? And if not, and why not?
I'm not alarmed. I think the governor-elect has many things that he's trying to deal with right now. I've been in touch with his advisors, and we're continuing to do what we've been doing all year, which is to seek to provide a safe, reliable service and be able to overhaul the MTA to do it in the most cost-effective fashion for the riders and the taxpayers.
What's priority one going to be come January for the MTA in Albany?
We're continuing to work as we have set out in the plan that you've seen today to be able to show people that we're delivering the type of service that is critically important to the New York metropolitan region, and that we're doing it in a way that's making every taxpayer dollar count.
Jay, so you've achieved a lot of savings this year, and you seem to indicate earlier that if you can continue to achieve savings, that maybe the 2013 fare hike might not be necessary?
No, I don't think I said that. I think I said that our financial plan is based on the agreement that had been reached by the governor and the legislature in May 2009, which called for regular periodic fare increases to be part of the MTA's business plan. In December, or at the end of this month, we will implement the first fare increase that was contemplated in that way at exactly the amount that was contemplated, a 7.5% yield increase. That plan contemplated another increase in the beginning of 2013, and that is what is in our financial plan. What I did say was that as a matter of law, the plan is a plan. It shows a path going forward. But the steps to implement the fare increase, if the board decides to go forward in that way, would be taken in 2012 in advance of that, and would include public hearings and board consideration and public comment. I think it's a little early to get to that stage, which is the point that I was making. But the plan does include the fare increase in exactly the way had been agreed between the governor and the legislature.
At what point next year do you need to have a solution for the gap in the capital plan?
The program for 2011 is funded as a result of the actions taken earlier this year by the Capital Program Review Board. We would need, in going forward with any contracts, to be able to assure that we have all of the money, not just to start a contract, to be able to complete a contract, and where we have large projects, obviously, to make sure we have the appropriate money to do that. It will be in the latter part of 2011 that some of those issues come to the fore, but really it is really 2011 is really a funded year.
So the MTA's recently embarked on a improvement project on the 2nd Avenue corridor to clean up some of the construction sites or improve the aesthetics and basically try to help the quality of life of the residents there. I'm just wondering if you could talk a bit about, was that overdue for those residents? I mean, is it enough to try to help them out during this few years of process before the subway opens and service begins up in that area?
Anyone who goes up to 2nd Avenue cannot miss the fact that this is a major construction site. It's a particularly major construction site around the 3 stations. The area from about 99th Street down for the 96th Street station, the area around the 86th Street station and the 72nd Street station. One of the things that we've been working to is to be able to build a stronger relationship with the community in the way that we're doing this. To be able to minimize the impact of that construction as much as possible, clean up the sites. I cannot tell you that takes it away completely by any stretch of the imagination. It doesn't. If you walk up there at almost any time of day, there's a very clear impact that is there. We're also conscious of the fact that businesses are to some extent hidden by the construction site. So the businesses, as the site is right now on the east side of the avenue, are effectively hidden by the construction site for the most part. And we've been working with the businesses in the community to be able to change the signage, to be able to have better wayfinding, to be able to do things that alert people to that fact. And finally, we're working with them to be able to advertise those businesses in a way that people can know that they are there. Ultimately, I think everybody will benefit from this project. It is a fundamentally important project. It has been on the drawing boards for more years, I think, than any of us can remember. But we are very much at a stage right now where there are community impacts, and we're working to minimize them.
One more. Jay, if you don't mind, how severe will the impact on the operating budget be if you have to bond out the rest of the capital plan, if you have to borrow the money for the rest of it? The budget's unfunded.
We have, through the approval of the Capital Program Review Board, bonds to cover the investments that we're making in 2010 and 2011 and for the expenditures that go along with that. I do not believe we have the capacity to be able to bond out further off our existing revenue sources. Thank you.